Hello guys, in this video I'll be covering actually not a sample, I'll be covering a post on Eurogenes blog. It's a very interesting blog. I like reading it, I read it all the time, find a lot of fascinating stuff on it. But let's talk about this post because this post is about a sample I've covered on my channel. You can see it's a DNA and appearance of atypical Yamnaya, and what we can see here with the results is that she's actually getting modeled as a mixture of Bronze Age Caucasian plus Yamnaya. So not a typical Yamnaya whatsoever. Basically half Middle Bronze Age Caucasian plus half Yamnaya is what we see here for the sample. And this sample is called the Azora Yamnaya outlier. It's a female dated to Bronze Age and is in fact a 50-50 mix between standard Yamnaya and late Mycope. Notice how it says, the blogger here says late Mycope instead of in Neolithic Mycope, which is what the original study was trying to push. The original study by Sandra and Wolfgang, I assume, was trying to push the narrative that this sample is like a mixture between Neolithic Mycope and progress and step in Neolithic, right? But that's not the case. You can't model this sample as a mixture of Neolithic Mycope and step in Neolithic. That's not how it works. You just can't do it. And I'm going to show you why. So there are a number of ways to demonstrate this fact. For example, with the QP admixture software that was also used by Penske, except with different outgroups or right pops. Please note that in my dataset, the Azora outlier is labeled Ukraine Azora Early Bronze Age Yamnaya. Excuse me. Right. So let's see. This is the original model. This is the academic model. The academic model is a mixture of Neolithic Mycope plus step in Neolithic. So like a Mycope basically plus Khvalynsk, just putting it into more easy to understand terms. And here you see a very low p-value, which is, by the way, I know a little bit about statistics. I've taken a couple statistics classes, so I know. I'm not saying I'm like an expert or anything, but I know how to calculate p-value and all that stuff. From my understanding of statistics, a lower p-value is supposed to be better. It's supposed to represent a more significant result. So there's a less likelihood that it's just a random result. However, with QP admixture, you actually want to have a higher p-value. So you can see the comparison between p-value with this model, which is the academic model, versus the blogger model. You can see the blogger model has a much higher p-value, which means it's much more statistically reliable, put it this way. So with the statistically reliable model, this outlier is getting modeled as a mixture of late Mycope, not in Neolithic Mycope, but late Mycope. So instead of just kind of a CHG, it's actually kind of like a modern Northern Caucasian, which is also, if you watch my video, it's precisely exactly what this individual was scoring with the GED match. A mixture of Yamnaya plus some kind of a modern Caucasian, North Caucasian. Hair's getting in the way. Okay. And the blogger also says, I can do it with Global 25 Vahaduo too. And you, dear reader, can too by putting the target and source, whatever. You already know how to do, how to use G25 and Vahaduo. I don't need to give you an explanation on this. If you watch my channel, you know how to do this. And this sample is getting modeled as a mixture of, Yamnaya Samara plus late Mycope. And she's scoring 0% in Neolithic Mycope. There is no Neolithic Mycope here, and that's very controversial because that directly contradicts the original findings by Sandra and Wolfgang, who were trying to push the narrative that this individual is just a mixture of Khvalynsk plus some kind of progress or Neolithic Mycope. That's not the case. That's simply not the case. Moreover, here's a self-explanatory principal component analysis plot that illustrates why my late Mycope Samara Yamnaya combo is much better than the reference populations used by Penske and colleagues. It was done with PCA tools here. Okay, I don't really want to zoom in and read all that, but I'm gonna link the article in the description of the video so you can look for it by yourself. I'm pointing this out for two main reasons. First of all, this is a fairly obvious mistake that should have been avoided, especially considering the level of expertise and experience among the authors? Excuse me, Russian is my main language, my primary language. I don't really have the best pronunciation for these kinds of words. Secondly, it's important to understand that the Azora outlier comes out exactly 50% Samara Yamnaya, because the standard Yamnaya genotype, I don't like using the word genotype here. I don't think genotype is the right word here. Just doesn't seem right. It's like saying standard Yamnaya haplotype. Okay, man, not the right word. But whatever, I'm not going to criticize the blogger. Already existed well before she was alive, and thus she cannot be used to corroborate any sort of influence from the Caucasus in the formation of the mainstream Yamnayan population. Yes, this is not a... This sample does come later. It does come later after the Eneolithic. It's not an Eneolithic sample, right? So trying to say that this sample is the way it is because of some kind of Eneolithic mycope influence is just not right. It's not the case, because it's not an Eneolithic sample. It's a Bronze Age sample. As for Yamnaya Caucasus individuals, I don't know why Penske attempted to model their ancestry as a group, because they don't form a coherent genetic cluster. Yes, there's outliers, of course, and with this kind of model, where this is the academic model once again, where the Caucasus Yamnaya is getting modeled as a mixture of Eneolithic mycope plus steppe Eneolithic, like Khvalinsk. I'm just going to simplify it for you guys. You might not know what all of this means. But you can see the p-value here is very low, which in statistics, a lower p-value would be a good thing. But in QP admixture, that's not the case. With QP admixture, a lower p-value is a bad thing. Oh, and Penske modeled the ancestry of mainstream Yamnaya as a three-way mixture with steppe Neolithic, Caucasus Neolithic, and Ukraine Neolithic. They succeeded, but with my outgroups, it's another hard fail. Very interesting blog. Admittedly, proximal models aren't easy to get right, and if you throw enough outgroups into a model, a large proportion of plausible models will fail. But I'm somewhat taken aback by these poor statistical fits. In my opinion, mainstream Yamnaya doesn't harbor any Caucasus ancestry that wasn't already present on the Pontic-Caspian steppe during the Eneolithic. And that's really the main takeaway here, right? So you might be watching this video and see DNA plus appearance of atypical Yamnaya, and you might be thinking that's a standard Yamnaya result. But it's not. It's not a standard Yamnaya result. It's a very atypical result. That's because this individual is not really even Yamnaya. It's a mixture between Yamnaya and other stuff. And it's not a mixture, as these Sandra and Wolfgang people were trying to claim, that it's a mixture of just, it's typical stuff that's typical for Yamnaya, like late mycope and steppe Neolithic and Eneolithic mycope. No, that's not the mixture here. That's not the mixture here. It's a mixture of late mycope and Yamnaya. It's a mixture of pretty much modern Northern Caucasians, not CHG, modern Caucasians and Yamnaya. So that's what I have to say about this sample. That's what I have to say about this article. If you want me to make more such videos where I just go about articles that relate to various topics that I've covered on my channel, I can do it. It doesn't take much effort. These videos are easy to make. And peace out.